The fact that they did this to this little black girl, they would not have tried it with a white girl. We know that they would not have. They would not have told the white girl, take off your sanitary pad. We want to see if you've got cannabis anywhere. First of all, they wouldn't be accusing a white girl of having cannabis on her.
Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Weekly Wahala. It's your girl Crystal Tweneboah, and on today's episode of Weekly Wahala, we're going to be talking about the Metropolitan Police basically being dragged on Twitter yesterday. So yesterday, Child Q, the name Child Q, was trending on UK Twitter, and basically the BBC News and like other news organisations were basically reporting that the Metropolitan Police was apologized for strip searching a 15-year-old black girl. So yeah, there is a 36-page report out, and the whole situation is so sad and so disgusting, the way the Met Police acted, and the report was done by the CHSCP, and if you want to read it, I will leave the link in the description, because it's like a 36-page document. But I have like this video is basically to talk about like the events, what took place, and basically like to shorten it if you don't want to read the document. But yeah, I strongly suggest that like anybody who is interested in the story should take a look at the report. So basically this whole thing started it took place in 2020, so 2 years ago, and they have given anonymity to the girl involved because she was underage, and so they refer to her as Child Q. So that's what like her name is in the report. So basically what happened was that Child Q came to school because she had an exam, and the teachers basically said that she smelled of cannabis, and they suspected that she had drugs on her. So she denied it, and the teachers basically searched her bag, her blazer, her shoes, and her scarf, and they found nothing. They found no cannabis or anything on her. And so they contacted the Safer Schools police officer. So in certain schools, if they're deemed like unsafe or something, they do bring in police officers in the school. I know that when I was in high school, my school also had police officers in there. I think the police officer was there for like the 2 to 3 years of my high school experience, and then they just left. So I don't know whether maybe they weren't needed anymore, or like maybe they just couldn't be bothered replacing them. But yes, it is normal, like in certain schools in the UK, if they feel like the school is a bit in an unsafe area, or maybe the children do get a bit rowdy, they do have police officers in school. But in that particular school, the Safer Schools police officer was unavailable that day, so they weren't in. And so when the teachers called them, whoever the police officer was, like advised them to call 101 for a female officer to come in. So if 101 is like the non-emergency line in the UK, so if I think it deals with like medical help as well as like any like criminal help as well. So like if like you're dealing with a situation that is not an emergency and doesn't need attention, like serious, like it's not something that's serious, then you're normally advised to call 101. So yeah, that's why the teachers called 101, and a female officer arrived, followed by 2 officers, one of whom which was female. So that's what the report is saying. So I'm guessing that it was just basically two female officers and 2 male officers that came into the school. So the female officers, 2 of them took her to the school's medical room, and they strip searched her, and her mother was not contacted. Child Q's mother was not contacted, and they found no drugs on her. So due to censorship like of YouTube, like I don't want to say certain words that could literally trigger it and probably get my video pulled down. But the way in which this 15-year-old girl was searched was absolutely disgusting and was absolutely wrong. Like basically, it's not just she was asked to take her clothes off completely, so she was nude in front of these 2 female police officers that she'd never met before. And it was the fact that like just the way in which she was stripped, like she was read the report, the way in which she was strip searched was like how they do in prison, like when they tell you to open yourself up and squat and like cough while you squat and like open your like basically spread herself and cough, so that like they thought that she had smuggled drugs in her genitalia. Mind you, this girl was on her period. It was her time. It was her time of the month. So it was just basically degrading, and how they believed that somehow a 15-year-old girl on her period would smuggle cannabis in her genitalia. And also, like, bear in mind, like, apparently she, obviously because she was on her period, the report said that she was wearing a sanitary towel, and they made her take that off, and like basically because they thought she must have, I'm guessing maybe they thought that she must have snug the cannabis in her underwear and then put the sanitary towel. Like, this is literally crazy. Like, the way she was treated was like she was like a drug lord or like a drug trafficker or something. And so, and I think what a lot of people like, the report doesn't really say it, but a lot of people were on social media, on Twitter, brought up the fact that like, the police officers in the UK, and like I think quite a lot of countries as well, they're given cameras like on them to sort of record if, in case anything happens, or in case anybody accuses you of something, they look at the police camera. And the people are saying that perhaps even like that, the cameras on the police officers were on, and like, so what, like, did they, like, why wouldn't they give her that sort of privacy? That shouldn't have taken place anyway, but just like the way the whole situation went down was absolutely disgusting. So going back to the story, after that happened and they didn't find any drugs on her, they sent her home. They sent her home, and so she went home and she told her mum. And her mum, like, good on her mum. Like, her mum took her to the family GP, and where she was given like psychological support. And the GP referred it to the Child and Family Services in Hackney, and they were alerted. So this took place in Hackney in London. And so, like, when you read the report, there's been instances where like the school had been so problematic. Like, a month before that whole situation happened, the teachers basically believed that she was drunk. They called her mum, and her mum said no, like, she's obviously revising for her exam, because she was 15, and at the age of like 15 to 16 in high school, you're going to be sitting your GCSEs, which are like the first major exams you sit like in the UK, that basically determine like your career and stuff like that. It doesn't completely determine it, but they're super important. So basically, like, that's what her mom said. Like, she wasn't drunk, she was studying till late at night, and so she was extremely tired. And so it's certain like instances like that is just like they were being so problematic. And like, also the report talks about the fact that they singled her out because somebody close to her, so in the school, she was friends with somebody who had been expelled or excluded, in like how we say in the UK, but she was like expelled for drug related reasons. Now the person was, I don't know whether they were male or female, but that person was expelled for like drug related reasons. So I think maybe they had cannabis on them as well, and it got them expelled. So somehow they had an eye out for her, and we're looking at her because they believe that she's probably the same, and like she, like, for some reason, like, they thought, oh well, if your friend does this, then maybe you might do it as well. But yeah, but the report is really like detailed. It's really good. It like looks at the stop and search and the strip search procedures that are in the Criminal Act, and like it's basically saying that like this whole situation shouldn't have happened. The whole point of schools is to safeguard children, and so for people, like, it doesn't really matter that there were police officers, but walking in saying that they were going to strip search a 15-year-old girl, and the teachers should have pressed them more, because like there's no way that for like adults should come into a school and say that they're about to strip search a 15-year-old girl. And the most annoying thing is that, like, even the report says it, like, the teachers weren't even in the room. Like, they stood outside and allowed like the police officers, like the 2 female police officers, to go in and to search her. And like, even though the fact that she was searched by 2 female police officers, given the circumstances, is still embarrassing. Like, the fact that she was on her period, asked to get like naked, like in nude, was absolutely disgusting. And those were complete strangers. The fact that also I think even in the report, it does say that like normally they don't really strip search underage like children, but if given the case, you have to have a parent there, and you also have to ask their consent, because a 15-year-old cannot give consent. So it's stuff like this that they did, like, they absolutely missed, and they did not handle this like properly at all. Like, when it comes to the report, like looking as you get to the bottom, it talks about how much like trauma that she suffered. You know, her mother said that they interviewed her mother and her maternal aunt, and they both said that like she gets nightmares from this situation. Like she doesn't really talk to people anymore. She just like hides out in her room, which is like so sad. And you know, she also gave a statement as well about how this has damaged her. And I want to read this because I think like this is so important. So she said, someone walked into the school where I was supposed to feel safe, took me away from people who were supposed to protect me, and stripped me naked while on my period. On top of preparing for the most important exams of my life, I can't go a single day without wanting to scream, shout, cry, or give up. I feel like I'm locked in a box and no one sees or cares that I want to just go back to feeling safe again. My box is collapsing around me and no one wants to help. I don't know if I'm going to feel normal again. I don't know how long it's going to take to repair my box, but I do know that this can't happen to anyone ever again. All the people that allow this to happen need to be held responsible. I was held responsible for a smell, but I'm just a child. The main thing I need is space and time to understand that this happened to me and exactly how I feel about it, and getting past this exam season. I need to know that the people who have done this to me cannot do this to anyone else ever again. In fact, no one else can do this to any other child in their care. Things need to change with all organizations involved. Even I can see that. And wow, like this is so like, and this goes to show you how like, you know, black girls are so adultified more than anyone else, you know, and like the fact that like even the report talks about how she was a prefect, like, and she was the top of her class. Like she wasn't just any odd like student, like she was like very academic and smart and stuff like that. But the way like she was treated was just absolutely wrong. And obviously the reason why, like, you know, the fact that she had an exam, I think it's like she was pulled out of the exam to do all this, and it's like, how do you expect her to go back into the exam and even continue on with the exam season like nothing has happened? And the most annoying thing was that when it came to the teachers, they were still adamant that what they did was right. They didn't feel any remorse or anything, like they didn't feel like they didn't done anything wrong. They felt like, oh well, they've acted on the right of like of the school. They feel like, well, the teachers feel like what they were doing was right, which I think is just stupid. They haven't been fired, the teachers haven't been fired, they haven't been held responsible at all, and the police officers as well have not been removed from the force, or they haven't been you know, they haven't faced any punishment or anything like that. And because that's how this started, was because the Met Police like just basically came out and said that they're sorry, like they just gave a bogus apology, and like nothing has been done. Like the police officers have not been held accountable. But overall, like what would make you treat a 15-year-old like that? Like I think you know, so many people as well, like the celebrities, I think that's what made it trend. The celebrities have come out and tweeted their support, and they have requested more from the Metropolitan Police. So like Diane Abbott, who's an MP, she's you know, tweeted about it. I know that the guy from First Dates, I think his name is Fred something, he's like the face of like the series First Dates. He actually also tweeted about it and showed his support, and like a lot of people are talking about how like racially motivated this is, and like I highly agree, because her being black like just spearheaded the whole thing. Like just the fact that she was a black girl, that alone was like, oh, like let's like you have to like, I think it's frustrating because it's like, you know, they searched her bag, they searched like everything, and she still didn't have any cannabis on her, and just because of that like spearheaded the whole, like they still like had to believe that, oh well, this black girl, she has to be guilty, like she has to have cannabis on her. Them calling the police and bringing 4 police officers, like why, how did it take 4 police officers to deal with a 15-year-old girl with cannabis? That just shows how racially motivated this whole thing was, because that already was the basis, was about the fact that she had to be guilty, because oh, like a black girl just has to be guilty, and that was just disgusting. Like the fact that they didn't even consider her age. That's why I'm saying that, like, and a lot of people are also touching upon it, that like they didn't really care that she's 15 years old, because like black girls are deemed to be like, they just have to like adultify black girls a lot more, that all was supposed to grow up a lot more quickly than everybody else, because this would not have happened to anybody else of any race. Like I'm convinced of it. She was the top of her class, a very, very good student, but all that went out of the window because, oh, like your friend is a bad person, so like you have to be a bad person as well, and also because of the color of your skin, you're bad as well. So like let's get all this whole like process like happen. Let's spearhead this whole process that's gonna change the rest of your life. And like literally and also like Kelechi, who's, I think when I checked her bio it says actress, but like I know that she also talks about issues that like plagues the black community and stuff like that. And so I know that the first video that I saw of her was about her giving her expertise and her opinions about the Black Lives Matter situation like in 2020. And you know, so Kelechi, she's very, very smart, and like I think this is the second video I've watched of her, so she did have some things to say about like the whole situation involving Child Q.
But I haven't made one of these in a while, and I just, with everything that's happening in the world right now that I feel so much for, the main thing I want to speak about is this young black girl, 15 years old, in the UK, London, Hackney specifically, who went to school. She was sitting her exams, and her teachers accused her of smelling like cannabis. And so they, for some reason, have a local police officer that's usually on the school site, but that police officer wasn't available, so they called the actual police to come through, the Metropolitan Police to come through, and they took this girl to a room, did not contact her mum to say that they were doing such, took her to a room, the police officers, 2 female police officers, stripped her down, made her basically strip search her. A teacher waited outside the door, so there was nobody with her, there was no responsible adult with her, just these 2 female police officers. She told them that she was on her period, that she was menstruating. They made her remove her sanitary pad because they wanted to check if she had cannabis anywhere. Made her bend over, cough, all of that. A 15-year-old girl, they took her out of her exams to do that to her. And we, I guess as the general public, are only finding out about this now because the report about it has managed to circulate. And as somebody who's experienced like sexual abuse as a child, and it took me a long time to be able to claw myself to this point where I feel comfortable within myself, within my body, and to trust my own voice to speak out about certain things. What happened to Child Q, because we don't have her identity because she's a minor, what happened to her is so harrowing and it's so disgusting, but it just speaks to the very institutionalized racism that is pervasive and just everywhere within British culture. The fact that they did this to this little black girl, they would not have tried it with a white girl. We know that they would not have. They would not have told the white girl, take off your sanitary pad. We want to see if you've got cannabis anywhere. First of all, they wouldn't be accusing a white girl of having cannabis on her, because the way that this society has pathologized, did I make up that word? I don't think I did. They pathologized blackness because then blackness is a wrongness. And then when you couple that with this war on drugs, which is literally just a war on marginalized communities, specifically black people, right? It makes it easy for them to just go, oh, I think I smell cannabis, and that's under that suspicion I can do what I want to you. Because we don't hear of white people being told that, oh yeah, it's because you smelled of cannabis that I'm going to be doing this. Meanwhile, people are walking around with noses clogged with cocaine and, you know, all sorts of like drug abuse situations that are actually treated more as public health situations as opposed to criminal situations, as is done when it's concerning black people. And that is part of my issue with it. And then you're talking about it, and wayward, useless, unseasoned, unwashed bitches are turning around saying, oh, but you know, if you take race out of it, they were just doing their job. No, race has to stay in it, because then what's the point of racism? The whole point of racism is the fact that you have a surface situation, or you have a foundational situation, and then it's then layered with the problem of racism, and, you know, based on a construct of race. I just think it's disgusting. I think it's so sad, and I'm sending Child Q and her family all of the love. She's so traumatized from it, like from the fact that she had to go home, tell her mum, and that's how they raise concerns about it. The teachers need to be fired, the police officers need to be fired, and I'm gonna say it loud and proud, we need to abolish the police, okay? There's no amount of like reform that you can do with an institution, with an establishment that was built upon a very festering and rotting core. And the thing is, white women are starting to understand this, because we're seeing all these cases popping up of, this happened to this white woman at the hands of the police, and this and that happened. I mean, white women sex workers have been experiencing this from a long time, and working class white women to a certain degree. But now that it's making its way to middle class white women, suddenly people are concerned. Nobody seems to be safe with this institution. So rather than saying it needs to be reformed, tell me, what part of it do you want to keep? What part of it works? What part? None. And so, like I said, love goes out to Child Q, to Sarah Reid, to all of Breonna Taylor, Sandra Bland, across the world, the black women that have suffered at the hands of police, and they've been told that, well, no, it is just what it is. We apologize for that. Apologies aren't good enough. We don't want apologies. We want abolishment. Okay? Thanks.
Yeah, so you've watched the video by Kelechi, and this is the second video I've watched of Kelechi. She's very she articulates herself well. She's educated, and she speaks a lot of truth in a lot of the points that she makes. I know that the first video, like I said, that I watched of her was the Black Lives Matter video that she did, and she hit the correct points and stuff like that. Kelechi knows what she's saying, but the only thing that I disagree with is the whole abolish the police narrative. I don't think you can have a society without police. Even going to Kelechi's Twitter, when I clicked on her account, I think I scrolled down, and she retweeted another black woman. I think she works for BuzzFeed or something, and she this is a woman who I'll put her bio, but she's very educated as well, and she has a very good job. And so she also doubled down on Kelechi's statement and was yeah, abolish the police. And for me personally, when it comes to this whole side note, this whole abolish the police narrative, I think black women should be careful not to tie your image to this whole abolish the police rhetoric. For me, when it comes to this whole abolish the police, people like Kelechi and that other woman, they don't speak for me, because I know that I know about them, but if you live in a good area that has 24-hour security, in a gated community, in a populated area, you can't then come out and say that, oh, abolish the police, because you don't have to live in a rowdy, unsafe neighborhood. And be careful that if you're a black woman who you live in a neighborhood that you can't walk down the street without being mugged, without being just insert any sort of criminal activity, anything, as an example, if you feel unsafe in your neighborhood, don't be following these laws and saying that abolish the police, because you need the police the most. And one of the things that she says is that what needs reforming about them, but then what are you gonna use to replace the police? Because the police, there's hundreds of thousands of them in the country. Who is going to replace them? How are they going to be paid if you are going to replace them? How are they going to be recognized that people know who they are? So even with the police, no matter what country you go into, the police, that there's a certain amount of respect that the police get, because it's globally, universally, the police, they have a certain look about them, the uniform, that has been there for decades. So how are you going to replace that? And if somebody meets, how are you going to know, even also the justice system works hand in hand with the police. So how are you gonna what method are you gonna have in place? And this is the things that people don't think about. So you always say, oh, abolish the police, abolish the police, abolish the police. How are you gonna have a society without abolishing? And the people who are always saying abolish the police are the people who live in I'm not saying that they don't need the police, but it's you live in a nice neighborhood or in a nice place. Don't that's what I'm saying, that other black women need to be careful that you don't follow after these these other privileged people, because in for me, if I live in an unsafe neighborhood, I'm going to need the police, so don't speak for me. That's the point that I'm trying to get at. And and a lot of times a lot of black women like to repeat the the Malcolm X quote that said the black woman is the least protected and the least respected, so do you think that that's gonna get better without the police? Like, if black women, if black women are the least protected, the least respected, then surely if you get rid of the police, then that's gonna be severely worse. Like, I've always said this, that like it's almost like the purge. If there was no police officers in society, black women would be the first to go. Like, if we all screaming about how unprotected black women are, like, what do you think is going to happen if like the purge happens and everybody knows that, like, oh well, black women have no protection? Like, what? So like, that's why I'm saying that, like, you all need to be careful repeating this abolish the police narrative, and I really do, I think that obviously abolish the police, this is very unlikely. Like, that would never ever happen in the UK, or even anywhere. I think the likelihood of that happening is like 0%. Like, no sane government is going to like put measures in place to abolish the police. That's dumb. But I feel like, even with that being said, the black women becoming the face of the abolish the police movement, because it is starting, becoming the face of this abolish the police movement. Like, what's going to happen is that, certain times, like, for example, like, say if you're a black woman who somebody breaks into your house, or you get mugged or whatever, because the image of the black woman is being tied with this whole abolish the police narrative. If you are in dire need of the help of the police, and you call them and you say, oh, yeah, I've been mugged, I need help, somebody's trying to break in, they're gonna be like, oh, I know you're not calling the police, your image is all over, you're the people who are always saying abolish the police, use that black girl magic and go and chase that mugger and go get your belongings back. Or, well, use that black excellence, and you're a strong black girl, so you better fight off that robber and stop him from getting into your apartment or your house. Like, you see that, like, that rhetoric, because it's like, that's what I'm saying, that I really, really be careful of of black women publicly coming out and saying, oh, abolish the police, because they're not gonna want to, like, give you any help, or like who's gonna want to give you any help if you're constantly saying, like, to abolish them. Like, obviously, like I said, the government isn't gonna do anything about it, but like, the government isn't gonna, like, put anything in place to abolish the police. But I think just that attitude per se is gonna want to stop, like, even like the good officers from even giving you any help, because you're spearheading this like abolish the police narrative. And also, like, to be quite fair, this whole situation, like, it's about child Q, and that the fact that obviously, a fraction of the police that dealt with the situation, and also the teachers that dealt with the situation, were absolutely disgraceful in the way that they behaved. But I don't think that, this, like, I think bringing the whole abolish the police movement, like, rhetoric, is just like downplaying on what she went through, and it's just like, it's not necessary at all, basically. That's what I'm trying to get at. But yeah, like, for me, like, the police are needed. Like, I don't know what else I can say. But even if the people who are saying that this whole, like, let's abolish the police, like, give me a Word document, or give me something how in which that you're going to, like, what are you going to put in place that's going to work. Like I said, it's never going to happen anyway, so you might as well just leave it, like, leave the that rhetoric, like, throw it in the bin. But like, I don't understand, like, what are you going to put in place to make sure that because even if, like, people say, like, oh, you could have neighborhood watch, like, who's going to take time out of their day, like, unpaid work, to do neighborhood, like, so while everybody else is going to work and their money paying their bills, who's going to take time out of their day to do neighborhood watch, and, like, not, like, who's going to take care of them? But so even then, it's like that like, part of the that's the part that people don't want to think about, like, the fact that who's gonna want to put, like, who's gonna volunteer to replace the job of who's gonna volunteer to replace the job of the police. Like, who's gonna do it, and are they going to be paid, and where's the money gonna come from, is the whole idea that I'm trying to get at. But yeah, like, overall, this situation was about child Q, and what happened was absolutely disgraceful. Like, the adults in the situation failed her, and the fact that they didn't ask her, the fact that they didn't even call her mother, or ask, like, what they were supposed to do was even to ask the mother's consent before they even, like, she was even supposed to get naked or anything like that. And so, like, this situation is just awful, and I think more like more should be done. Like the teachers especially should be held accountable, and the police officers should be like, not even held accountable, like they need to leave, like they shouldn't be teachers anymore, and also the police as well to need to be held accountable. Like apology doesn't cut it, especially from the fact that she still suffers trauma till this day. But yeah, that's the whole video. I know that's a bit long because I had to like read through the report and everything like that. But yeah, if you've gotten to this point, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch my video. I really appreciate it. Please like, comment and subscribe, and let me know how you feel about this situation. If you have read the report, let me know more, like let me know about your opinions, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thank you, bye guys.